And it also taught me how to somewhat wear my emotions like a jacket. And there are just certain things that I will feel in certain spaces that I do not have to bring to every space. And because of that, if I leave out of a room like a jacket, I can take it off and I can leave it there. And I do not have to look at it or take that with me to the next space I enter. And because of that, and because of learning that, it's really, really helped me, again, go into work without, of course, you're going to take your experiences, yes, but it helps me go into my workspace or go into environments and go into community without projecting or without, harboring those emotions.
Hi, everybody. Lee Scott here. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee, where we talk about life, leadership, and legacy, and want to help you unleash your capacity and level of leadership. I'm so excited that you are here. And before I introduce my very, very, very special guest, if you have not done it yet, go and subscribe to Leading with Lee today on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. Well, I have some wonderful guests today who have said yes to coming on Leading. These two women are so impactful in the community here in Jackson, Mississippi, and I'm so excited to have them on. And my first guest is Charity Bruce. She is the Director of Economic Justice and of the Economic Justice Campaign for the Mississippi Center for Justice. And I also have Jamie Rasberry, who is the Director of Policy and Strategic Partnerships at the Mississippi Alliance for Nonprofits and Philanthropy. Hey, ladies, how are you doing?
Hey, Lee.
Well, thank you both for saying yes to this. I think this is going to be a great conversation. And I'm really excited for people to hear what you all have to share. But I want to start with you personally. And I'll start with you, Jamie. My question for both of you is, how are things going? What is happening in your world? What are some things that you're like working on right now?
Well, Lee, it's good to be here, and I'm happy to get to share a little bit about myself and the work I do. And I'd start out by saying I'm a mom to a 6-year-old, and so that's what's happening in my world right now. We're in
Oh, yeah.
kindergarten and learning how to read, and very theatrical and dramatic in life right now, but having a lot of fun. And so I think above anything else that I do, being a mom is my priority and number one. So that is first, and secondly, just doing a lot of work with our nonprofits across the state. So we are the statewide association that provides support by way of capacity building, training, learning, consulting to nonprofits all over the state of Mississippi. I lead our policy work, so we're in the middle of our legislative session right now, and there's a lot of things kind of swirling around that do impact nonprofits. And so, spending a lot of time at the Capitol, spending a lot of time understanding what else is going on that doesn't impact us, but that, is relatable to the work that we do. So that, and then, I get the honor to be a part of other things that are happening in the Jackson community with other organizations. And I'm invested in our city and invested in our state, and it's an honor and a privilege to get to be a part of all of that.
Awesome. Charity?
Things are great right now. I'm not a mom, but I guess for this week, I'm a surrogate mom. I have all my I have all my nephews and niece staying with us for spring break. So it's been a bit interesting to see, the parent world, and I pray for you all on a daily.
It's real out there, huh?
Like, it's a lot. But work is great. Particularly in our work or in my work, we focus on so many different areas because it is economic justice as a whole. So of course we're, pushing forward with our foreclosure prevention work as well as our expungement work. And also just trying to make sure people have access to justice in the court system and finding ways to combat predatory lending. So that's kind of what we're focusing on right now, or what my main focus has been, and will continue to be for 2024.
Oh, that's great. I mean, you all lead busy and um, eventful lives because I mean, you all are traveling so much and all the different things that you're doing, and you're engaging so many people. And so we're immensely grateful for the dedication to your craft, but also the time you all are putting in the midst of all the stuff that's going on in your life. So, as we were talking about before we got on here, I mean, you both know that it's Women's History Month. And one thing I like to do on here on Leading is actually talk about the impact that women have had. And so I just want to ask you all, what does that mean to you that there's like a month that some people came together and said, hey, we're going to dedicate this month to women and we're going to have a conversation with them about what's going on. And as it relates to that, um, how do you think women are doing in our current climate? And I'll start with you, Charity.
Okay. Every month is Women's History Month, but no, I'm so grateful that, they actually took the time to set aside time to really celebrate and encourage women because, I mean, women do so much just in society, in our culture, in the workspace, all of that, to the point where it's sometimes hard to really celebrate yourself. So it's so crucial and beneficial when others recognize the work that you are doing and want to celebrate you because it's super hard to do that for yourself. And I would say right now, I mean, I think that right now in society, as it has somewhat always been in a way, is that women are still at the forefront and on the front lines of change, of progress, and of, just fighting for what they believe in. We've always just been those catalysts where, although people might not agree, we still have the courage and we find that safe haven in one another to still stand up and do what we truly believe in. So I am proud of the women that are representing, each other nowadays because I feel like there's such more of a camaraderie amongst each other based off of what we've seen most recently in in the world, when it comes to Supreme Court decisions or legislation being passed or just work like experiences on a day-to-day level of, walking, going to the grocery store, interactions that I might have with a teller at a bank might not be the same interaction you might have, Lee. But we find
Absolutely.
comfort in knowing that there are people, there are women out there that relate to us, that hear us, and that are champions for us. And so I'm grateful for that. I hope to continue to be a champion for other women because, we get stuff done. So that's how I feel.
Jamie.
Yeah, I 100% agree with all of that. And I think what I'm seeing is we are the second, third generation that is continuing the legacy of what women have done in the history of our country. And we're seeing women rise in these leadership positions. We have the first female as the vice president of the United States. We have more women CEOs in Fortune 500 companies than there ever has been in the history of our state. Even, I mean, in the history of our country, and even at the state level, there's so many women that are in these leadership positions, running companies, running organizations. We have only had one female elected official at the highest of state level, which was a lieutenant governor. But
Uh-huh.
we're
Amy Tuck.
seeing women, yes, we're seeing women uh, rise up and take on these leadership roles at the local level, the state level, the national level. And I think that that's really powerful that we're seeing the shift for the first time in a predominantly white male run country industry political world, and we're seeing that shift. So I just think it's really cool that we get to be like Charity said, we're the catalyst of the change that they started.
Yeah.
And so what happened, 50, 60, 70 years ago, we're the result of the women that went before us and even well beyond that. And we're the living legacy of what women have done to get us where we are today. And I just even think about like in my own family, my grandmother, who's 96 years old, and what she has done in her life, what she has seen in her life, what she has instilled in all of us in our family. And even beyond that, her grandmother, I mean, her mother and her grandmother, and just like the legacy within us, but then the legacy within our city, our state, and our country, that's so powerful and so deeply ingrained in our souls today. And now being the mother of a daughter, like I always say, I want my ceiling to be her floor.
Yeah.
So wherever I get to, that's where I want her to start and pick it up from there and do even greater things that I have ever gotten to be a part of.
Oh, that's such a great answer, Jamie. And you know, uh, I know you want Leah to go way beyond what you're doing.
And
And
it's looking like she will based on the personality that she has right now.
no, I understand. No, she's great. But kind of staying in that vein, one of the things that was on my mind as you were speaking, Jamie, was something I kind of talked about in the last episode was, I mean, immediately I thought about the 1848 Seneca Falls Convention where women's rights, as far as voting rights was concerned, started a conversation. They're starting to have the conversation. It took
Mm.
decades upon decades before women even got the right to vote in 1919, right? Like there were so many sacrifices that women have made in our culture. But I wanted to kind of stay in that vein and ask this question of both of you. And I'll start with you, Jamie. What are some of the things that you feel like we can improve upon or modernize in our culture to empower women? I mean, I still feel like there's a long way to go. There's been so many progress, but what are some of the things that you're seeing in the spaces that you're in where we can actually do a better job of empowering women or giving women opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, even though we see women in leadership positions, there are still times where even myself can be in a room and be the minority as the female in the room and get suppressed. I've been in meetings where it's a room full of men and my voice does not get heard, or my voice may get heard but not taken seriously.
Mm,
And so while we've risen up to this place of achievement and success and opportunity, I think that we still have not quite risen to the level that women are seen as equal by way of the knowledge that they bring, the expertise that they bring, the ideas that they bring. And I'm not speaking on behalf of all men, but I'm just speaking on personal experience where I have witnessed that and seen it within myself and with others.
wow.
So I think that that's an area that women need to keep rising and keep using their voice and keep showing up in these spaces in full authenticity and transparency, but being bold and courageous to speak up and say, I bring value to this space, to this conversation, and I will not be diminished because I'm a female. And so, I just think that we've got some work to do to continue to shift that.
No, that's a phenomenal response. Charity, what are your thoughts about that?
I agree 100%. I think that what I would say, maybe on the other end of the spectrum is that yes, we should still show up and speak up, but I think that what society can do as a whole better to encourage women is listen, because we can raise our voices as loud as we want and scream from the hilltops, but if you're not just willing to listen to me because I am a woman, then the change will never occur and it still falls on deaf ears. And I just say that from not only like a workspace, but also just in everyday life, you hear so many women come out about violence, that has happened against them, or
Yes.
things in where they feel intimidated or where they don't feel as safe. And it just seems as if women are always challenged with statements that they make, and are never just received based off of their knowledge or purview or experience. It's always well, I've never heard of it. Like, can you explain more? Or are you sure? Or was it really meant like that? Are you really taking it the way it should have been? Or are you being too sensitive? Number one thing, are you being too sensitive or you're a woman? So I think at the end of the day, like, people should listen to women the first time. And statements made by women shouldn't automatically come with a response to challenge that statement. Take it. Yeah.
No, I think that's a very productive response. I think from my perspective as a man, because I can't speak as a woman, is that is our responsibility, is to take every statement that people make to us seriously. And I think, but that takes some self-work, right? That means we have to put aside ego to allow there to be space for these type of conversations. You have to be willing to think about, hey, bro, you're not the only one that's impacted by this decision that you're making. Like, it's affecting so many people. And I think you all just gave a great, like, very clarifying thought as it relates to that issue. I think us as men, we have to be partners in recognizing that we must do that in order for us to actually get a better perspective about the world. I mean, obviously, we don't know everything. I mean, obviously y'all know that we don't know everything. So it might be a little bit helpful to engage in a better way. I'm gonna take one more question before we go to the break, but one of the things that I was thinking about too, I mean, you both have been in the workspace and engaged in different ways and have different experiences, right? And both the organizations you work for are sort of in the nonprofit space, but they have a unique corporate feel to them to some way. And so there's an interesting dynamic that you're dealing with. How has your experiences outside of work affected how you approach your career? Because one thing I've learned over the years is that it is a lie to say that people do not bring their whole selves into what the work they do. Like, if something happened before you came to work, you're bringing that person to work, right? Like you don't just not show up. So Charity, talk to me a little bit about some of the experiences that you have and how that has affected how you approach the work that you do and engage, or how you engage people in the work that you
do. Okay. I guess for me, I would just say that it is a bit difficult sometimes. And I say that because, quite frankly, as a Black woman in certain spaces, we are not allowed to sometimes express or show certain emotions without it being taken a certain way. So my approach is very different because, I might have gone through a life-changing event, but when I enter the workspace, if I go in and close my door and shut myself off to everybody, and I'm not as friendly or not as open with clients and things of that nature, then the perception can be very different than the average person. So in a lot of those instances, you somewhat learn to mask it. And so you do come in knowing that you are dealing with other things, but in this space, you cannot allow those things to make you project onto other people or into other spaces. And I want to say I learned that very early on in my career, like as soon as I graduated law school, my first job, I had to learn it very early on. However, I would say it helped me because it taught me how to compartmentalize. And it also taught me how to somewhat wear my emotions like a jacket. And there are just certain things that I will feel in certain spaces that I do not have to bring to every space. And because of that, if I leave out of a room like a jacket, I can take it off and I can leave it there. And I do not have to look at it or take that with me to the next space I enter. And because of that, and because of learning that, it's really, really helped me, again, go into work without, of course, you're going to take your experiences, yes, but it helps me go into my workspace or go into environments and go into community without projecting or without, harboring those emotions and letting them lash out on another person. So that's what I would say.
That's so good. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've been working, my career now for 25 years. And so I have worked in the corporate world. I've worked remotely for a long time where I didn't have to see anybody, every day. And we have a very small team at the Alliance, and all that to say, I've learned how to work with people of all different personalities and communication styles. And if they come in and they don't look at me, I just give them some space. Or if, I often will say to my team, if I come in and I'm a little flustered, we just had a bad morning getting to school on time. So just give me a minute. But I've also learned that if I can't show up as my true self, I need to take a minute before I show up. So sometimes that looks like just sitting in my car for 5 minutes, even if that means I'm late for something,
Wow.
or going in. And if I have a meeting or a call or something, just taking a minute to compose myself and just breathe and get prepared for it. I think that it takes willpower to do that because we just move so fast in everything that we do. And even with my child, sometimes I say, I just need a minute. I hear you, I see you, but I just need a minute.
Yeah.
And so I call it take five. So if you need to take five to think, process, breathe, compose yourself, whatever you need to do before you enter a space, it's okay to do that. Don't worry about I'd rather be late 5 minutes and come in healthy than come in on time, storming, and not in a good place. And so through all of my years and my career and places I've had to be and work with and engage with, I think that's what I've learned the most, how to take care of myself so that when I show up well.
Oh, that's so good. But we're going to take a break real quick right here. We'll be right back after this message. Hi, everybody. Lee here, and I want to give some information to you. Do you need someone to host an event or come and speak at your event? You can now book yours truly. Book me for your event by visiting www.leeascott.com. I am so excited to connect with you and do work with you. Much love, and let's get started. Want to promote your business, products, or services? Email me at scottconsultations@gmail.com. I would love to push forward the banner of what you're trying to accomplish, whether it is a product, whether it's your services or your business. I would love to work with you and be an advocate for what you're doing in your respective spaces. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you. And we are back. Oh my gosh, it's been so good to talk to Charity and Jamie, and I really, really, really have been inspired by the things that you both have been sharing, because this is hopefully helpful for not just women, but it gives men perspective about how we should operate in the workspace with our female peers. One thing I know I'm going to ask some more questions, but one thing that just came to my mind is that sometimes I think men have to take the time, again, going back to something both of you said earlier, and listen in order for us to understand how can we operate better in spaces. Because a lot of times, if you're unaware and you're not having conversations that are challenging you and forcing you to think about things, you're assuming that you know something and you don't know. So thank you both for sharing and having this conversation. My next question for both of you is, how can women continue to build their professional successes and pave the way for others? I think that the work that you all are doing is not just about now. Obviously, you have somebody that you're paving the way for right now, Jamie. she lives in your house. But what are some, how do you think that women can continue to do that in paving the way and building on their success? And I'll start with you, Charity.
Okay. I think that back to what Jamie said is showing up in spaces as our authentic selves can help pave that way because I mean, sometimes it's okay to make people uncomfortable. You know, sometimes that's the only way change will happen is
Wow.
when people are uncomfortable. And if you have to be that person, then know that you are not doing it in vain. And you are not only doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for all of, you know, your sisters out there. And it's hard. It's hard. It's pressure to think that you alone could be that catalyst for change. But again, as Jamie said earlier, that legacy that you will leave behind is so important. And I think that that's what I think about on a daily because when I leave this world, I can't tell my own story. Only the people here can tell the story that I've left behind based off of what I've done. And because of that, I
Talk,
truly,
Charity. That's good.
and I truly do think though, again, like showing up in your authentic version of yourself will be the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Because you know, playing as if I wouldn't even say playing, but only conforming to what's there and only placing yourself in the box that was already made or construed isn't helping you, nor is it helping anyone that comes behind you. And if the females and the women that did that before us, you know, took that same mentality, then we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. I want to be in this position.
Yeah.
And I think about that daily. Like the position that I'm in at my age really puts a different type of passion and fire in me because it's not just something that is easily given. It's not something that somebody can walk outside and say, like, oh, this is what I want to do today. I'm going to do it. It's the fact that someone saw worth and value in me as an individual and in my mind and in the work that I do and decided to pour into me
Yeah.
as a young woman and say, you will pave the way for other young women. And so that's the motivation. And I sincerely look at little girls like running around, especially like my niece age, because my niece is 6, Jamie. Oh my gosh.
So
And so
you know.
yeah, and I see little girls and I see their personality and I'm hearing them talk about school and all these things. And I'm like, we're doing it for them. Because when they look back, when they grow up and they see, oh, my mom was this shero, or my aunt did this, it's gonna be worthwhile.
Yeah. I mean, such great. Jamie, what are your thoughts about that?
You know, my first thought is I have been in some places recently where I've looked around and I have thought for the first time in my career and in my life, I'm one of the oldest people in the room. So I'm a little, not significantly, but a good bit older than both of you. You know, I'm halfway through my career.
Yep.
You know, I'm pushing 50 and I'm in these places with people that are your age that are so smart and, you know, impacting communities and people. And it just is so encouraging for me to see the next generation of leaders rising up. And, you know, Charity, you've earned your place and you've had to work hard, but yes, people see things in us to give us an opportunity to be able to reach our full potential. And I see so many young people already moving into that. And it's just really exciting for me. I was just thinking years ago, I can't do it much anymore because my knees hurt too bad, but I used to run marathons or half marathons. A half was a full to me. But there was a group of people that I
Big.
would run with. And one of the guys that was in that group, he was always pushing me. And he said something to me on one of our long Sunday morning runs one time that I'll never forget. And I have translated that over into just about everything I do in my life. And he said, The only way you're going to get better is by running with people that are better than you. And so when I look at where I am in life, in my career, as a mother, as a person, like investing in things in my community, um, there's a lot more people that are better than me and
Yeah.
smarter than me that I need to continue to surround myself with. And so always looking for, opportunities to grow and develop as a leader, as a person, but looking for those people to continue to invest in me. And then how can I then invest in that next generation? Yes, my daughter, but there are young women who are kind of in the same, career path that I'm in now. And how can I begin to take what's been poured into me and then pour it into other people?
Oh, I th- this is just an aside, but I would tell you all, like, I selfishly enjoy these type of conversations because it it lets me know that people are not thinking about now, right? This is your digital footprint, right? Like, there may be somebody that watches this 6 months from now, a year from now, 5, 10, 15 years from now, and will remember something that both of you said in this conversation and be impacted by it in a way that causes them to say, you know what, I actually can do that. I actually can pursue this career. I actually can pursue an opportunity that is bigger than me. I actually can put in the effort to actually open doors for somebody else, right? And I think that that's so impactful. Both of you really hit the nail on the head about what it means to be like fearless, to say, hey, I have the opportunity to ensure that somebody that comes behind me has a better opportunity than me, can do great things, and make a huge impact in the world. It made me think about this question that I have for both of you. Who are some of the women that inspired you or influenced you or caused you to believe that these things were possible? And I'll start with you, Jamie. Who are some women that like really, really were there and said, "Hey, Jamie, you can do this"?
Well, I have three. There's a whole lot more, but I'll mention three really quickly. And one I've already mentioned, which is my grandmother, who is 96 years old and the most sweet, precious, humble, caring, giving woman that I've ever met in my life. I still get handwritten letters in the mail from her, and
Oh,
I've just been at her
wow.
house 2 days before, or we
That's
FaceTime each other,
wonderful.
and then she'll send me a letter in the mail.
Yeah.
And I've just seen her perseverance, her overcoming struggle, her losing her oldest son, a grandson, my grandfather, and like how she's handled grief and loss, how she's handled living 96 years and all the things that she has seen and experienced and been a part of. And she's just, you know, I don't even know the word to describe the impact that she's had on my life, but um, by far the most impactful. Unrelated to me and not necessarily women that I know or that have poured into me. I think about Merle Evers, and I know her daughter, Rena Evers Everett, who's just precious and amazing. And I've met Miss Evers, but just her legacy and what she turned tragedy into triumph and what she did with that tragedy and that loss and that story, and now her daughter is picking up that legacy and leading it. And I'm really excited to read the new book that's just come out about Marley and Megger Evers.
Yes.
Yes. So I would say like someone within our state that has impacted me is definitely her. And then when I think about like world history and all the way back to the beginning of time, there's a woman in the Bible who actually, I know the story because of my grandmother, and her name was Hannah. And she was the mother of Samuel. And her faithfulness and her trust that God would give her the desires and the answer the prayers that she longed for, And even when that was fulfilled, her obedience to her commitment to serve the Lord in that. So it's a beautiful story. And so just transcending over time from like our history as a society, as a culture, as a Christian, and then the history of our state, and even to today, the history of my own family.
Charity.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think I will also say my grandmother as well. Um, it's just nothing like your grandmother's influence or touch or the time that you spend with them.
Mhm.
It's like invaluable. Like the words really can't describe. But similar story of my grandmother on my mother's side, she had 12 children. And
Ooh.
she was there for her family. She put every single child in school. And when the last child got to grade school level, she decided, I'm going to go get my degree and I'm going to get it in
Wow.
teaching. And I'm going to go teach other children because I want to pour into this community. And so
Wow.
she kind of started the family tradition of to college, being our alma mater and being the place where we continue our education. And I would say in history, it might sound a bit far-fetched, but I love Zora Neale Hurston, y'all, because Zora Neale Hurston to me was such an amazing writer, and her style of writing was so hard to capture because she wrote particularly in our Southern dialect. When y'all know how some of us talk, it's really hard to capture that in writing. And so the fact that she did at such a time was really inspiring to me. But beyond that, it's because at the time and in the moment in which she wrote her books, and even their eyes were watching God, it plummeted. It did awful. So many people wanted nothing to do with Zora. They felt like she was making fun or a mockery of Southern dialect. Yet for her, she was paving the way for us to be our authentic selves.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that, well, I hate the fact that she didn't get her flowers while she was here, but I do love the fact that it came full circle and you see that fearlessness, I guess, in a way of, I'm going to put this forward, I'm going to pave this path. And although I might not see where this path leads, I know that in the future it does lead to something bigger than myself. And so I do love that about her writing, about her dedication, and just about her story in a general sense. Like it's very sad, but I love how Black women and women in general became like her biggest champion
Yeah.
and really cultivated a a modern, I guess, like Renaissance and Harlem Renaissance when people began reading her literature again and, giving her the flowers that she deserved while she was here.
Yeah. That's so great. So we're getting to the end here. You all have been so great. And I really, really think people will be inspired by the stories that you have shared, but also your perspective about what it is to be a woman in our time, and also what is your hopes for the future. So, one of my last questions is, what are you reading? What are you listening to? How are you investing in yourselves? Are you going to the spa? Uh, are you taking personal days? How are you investing into yourself and strengthening yourself? And I'll start with you, Jamie.
Well, I don't make it to the spa very often, but I do firmly and wholeheartedly support self-care for everyone. So whatever that self-care looks like for you, for me, it does look like going to a boot camp. I try to go about 5 days a week, and it's 45 minutes of time that I don't have to take care of anybody else but myself. And so, that's an investment in my mental health, my physical health, emotional health, and it helps me be a better person and be a better mom. So that's kind of my self-care. What I'm reading right now, I'm actually reading two books, and I have them right here beside me because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. The first one is this is a brand new book that's just come out. It's called Mostly What God Does, written by Savannah Guthrie, who's one of the co-hosts on the Today Show. And I
Yes.
actually met her and got it signed in Oxford a few weeks ago. She was in Mississippi. And it's just it says reflections on seeking and finding his love everywhere. And so for me, I've been watching the Today Show my whole adult life. I feel like Hoda and Savannah are like my best friends. And so to read things from her perspective, and as a woman who's a wife and a mother and, a TV personality, it's just really beautiful get to kind of know her a little bit better. And then I'm also reading Coming of Age in Mississippi by Anne Moody, which is an autobiography about her life and what it was like to grow up in a very small rural community in Mississippi in the 30s, 40s, 50s. So it kind of weaves her life all the way from a child through high school, college, and adulthood. And so, again, surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me doesn't have to be in person. So I tend to do that by way of reading books and learning. I won't tell you all the podcasts that I'm listening to because y'all would think that I was crazy. So I won't go through that list, but I'm always looking for more information, not because I want to get smarter by any means, but because I want to know more. I want to understand. I want to listen. I want to be able to talk about things and understand what I'm talking about enough so that other people can understand some of the things that are happening.
Charity.
So I will be honest. I don't have a book right now, but I just
It's
went to
good.
Barnes and Noble. I just went to Barnes and Noble earlier this week to get the children's books because I made them write me a book report. So I probably should get a book myself and do the same thing. But I wholeheartedly believe in self-care, mental health, all of those things because we need it. And sometimes you just have to take that time for yourself. And I would say self-care for me is sometimes even just ordering my favorite food for the night, just to give myself some type of comfort to know, you know what, when I get home, I'm going to actually eat what I want to eat instead of eating what I probably should eat, as far as health and diet. But yes, so any book suggestions that anybody might have, please send them my way.
Well, I have a whole list in my notes on my phone that people tell me about books, and I put it in there, and I'm just making my way through the list.
Hey, look, Jamie, we might need to get your email put
Right.
on in, the notes of this episode so people can we can get Jamie's list. You know how Oprah has her book list. We can start Jamie's book list as of today. But my second to last question is, how are you all paying it forward? I know we talked a little bit about just in general of how you're seeing women do a lot of things, but more specifically in your career, how are you taking the time to invest in people and give opportunities to people? And I'll start with you, Charity.
Me particularly, I'm always looking for interns or volunteers. I don't care what age. I just want to expose individuals to a world that they might not have thought about before. In the instance where even if this is not something that you really want to pursue as far as law or, social justice, public interest law, you might not have thought about law in general or seeing the moving parts of who we work with. Like Jamie does policy, you might not have even thought of policy, but you see somebody that's in that realm or in that world, and it truly opens your eyes. And so I would say I try so hard to pay it forward by exposing and giving people that exposure to different worlds and different spaces that they might not be afforded on a day-to-day basis. Because I think that like if you put your mind to it, then you truly are capable of achieving it. And sometimes people don't have that exposure to know what to put their mind to, or they're only setting their sights on something that they see every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Jamie?
Well, in the nonprofit world, we talk about giving your time, your talent, and your treasure.
Yep.
So, being that I work for a nonprofit, I don't have a lot of treasure to give, but I am giving my time and my talent to the best of my ability. I'm very fortunate that in my work and representing the Alliance, we get to share knowledge and we get to equip nonprofit leaders and professional development people that are looking to develop as leaders across the sector. So I feel like there's a lot of talent by way of my experience and my role now that I'm always willing and looking to share. And then with my time, I get to serve on some boards of some nonprofits. And so that's very rewarding for me, is that I get to, again, share some talent, a little bit of treasure, but my time to help support the work that these nonprofit organizations are doing. And then, just any time that I can be a resource, be a help, be a conversation, I'm always open and willing to offer myself up to help anybody. Sometimes that just looks like taking a walk with somebody just to listen. Again, listening is so important. I don't have to always have the answers, but I just can be available for people. Whatever that looks like and however that I can be used, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, that's so great. And this is my last question. I ask every guest when they come on here this one question. And I'm gonna say this before I ask the question. You can say your honest answer. I have gotten so many different answers on this one particular question. And so I always ask people, what song would they use to describe themselves and why? I've gotten Nuck If You Buck. I've gotten a theme song of Braveheart. I've gotten all of them. So Jamie, what song would you use to describe yourself and why?
Lee, I'm just going to say Alexa Shuffle, because I don't even know. It depends on the day, what's happening. One day it could be Brick House. The next day it could be Friends in Low Places. I mean, like, there is not one song I can think of that would describe me. So I'm just going to go with Alexa Shuffle.
Charity.
Oh, and Alexa's in there. She heard me.
I'm gonna say Nicki Minaj's Itty Bitty Piggy. Itty Bitty Piggy, because Nicki Minaj literally, like the wordplay, the deliverance, her confidence when speaking and, like rapping the song, like all of that. I just feel like that's just kind of like my mood most times. It's a thing of, you know what, if I sound confident enough when I talk, then maybe they won't know that, I'm nervous. It's all get out. And I'm truly not wanting them to ask me follow-up questions, because like, don't do that. Just leave it as it is. But yeah, I would say the energy that she brings on that song is the energy that I bring in life. And she also mentions A Different World, which is like my favorite sitcom of all time. So,
well, Jamie Rasberry, Charity Bruce, I appreciate y'all. Thank you all for coming on Leading. I think people are going to be so impacted by what you shared today. Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. If you want to get more information and connect with me, visit me at www.leeascott.com or follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. So, thank you for watching. Much love, and let's get started.